All right, let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. All right, yeah, he's back. Shelley Wynter, host, 95.5 FM WSB, Word on the Street. Actually, it is a remarkable show if you are a conservative that doesn't pay attention to facts. All right, Shelley.
My brother, let me correct you. It's the Shelley Wynter Show.
Shelley Wynter Show now. All right,
yeah.
We need to update the graphic, but thank you, dear brother, for being on the show. It's going to be interesting because we have to talk about something. I've been waiting to talk directly to a conservative about this. And I'm just glad you happen to be a conservative with some color. Because Nikki Haley, who already made the gaffe about why was the Confederate War fought, hell, she could have listed slavery as one of the reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
She admitted later, you know what, I gaffed. She was on CNN, she said, I should have said slavery, all right? And then she highlights her own racism that she's experienced in America. She pivots well to that. She gets on Fox News. She goes on Fox. She then says, America is not a racist country. America has never been a racist country. DeSantis gets the same question from Wolf Blitzer about Nikki Haley's question. Do you agree with Nikki Haley that America has never been a racist country?
Absolutely not, Rashad. I mean,
all right, come on.
It's absurd. I talked about this on my own show, shameless plug, Shelley Wynter Show on 95.5 WSB. But I talked about this. First of all, Republicans, I say this 3 times a week, at least on my show, Republicans need to start hiring Black consultants. There's a number of them in the state of Georgia alone that can do the job. But this idea, I talked about it on the last time I was on your show. Republicans tend not to want to talk about racism. I understand the reason why. It's primarily because whatever is said is going to be taken out of context to make them look like they're racist because that's the narrative. But Nikki Haley was dead wrong the first time. She tried to she admitted it. Then she came back with America's never been a racist country, which is clearly not the truth because America owned slaves, or enslaved Africans. So clearly that is not a true statement to make. Now, in 2024, is America a racist country? No. Do we have racists in this country? Absolutely. And I think we can have that discussion back and forth. But I mean, it's a silly comment. And I don't know why these people are not smart. If you're not smart enough to answer that question without tripping over yourself, you're certainly not smart enough to be the president of the United States. And I don't want Nikki Haley anywhere near the Oval Office as VP or president, not because of that, because she's a neocon, warmonger, no different than Hillary Clinton.
Let me bring a couple of things to your doorstep. Number one, I do disagree with the sentiment that somehow they are saying these things because they are not smart, they are not dumb. A second grade education is all that's required to understand that America is rooted in the origin, is rooted obviously in racism.
I disagree with that.
Well, allow me, dear brother, I allowed you to finish.
Well, hold on, real quickly. The Constitution never had it in the original Constitution, did not establish slavery as a condition or in any way, shape, or form. Well, it has got to be your point because if you're talking about if you're talking about the rooting,
Billy again. Come on, you're coming in low vibration, brother. That's low vibration.
Okay, come on.
Stop being low vibration.
If you're talking about the rooting of America,
brother,
you've got to start with the Constitution.
For myself, Shelley.
Go ahead,
come on now.
Go ahead. You said it, not me.
I can't
You said it,
wait.
not me.
I can't wait to get on your show and totally tear your ass up.
Well, I'm not going to let you talk like you don't let me talk on yours.
You'll just cut my mic.
Right, cut the mic. Like you do me.
All right. I'll do that a couple of times. All right, so here's the thing. Rooted in the foundational documents, look at your Declaration of Independence, your proclamation documents, phraseology such as Native Americans are savages. Well, that's because white bigoted savages wrote it. That's racist. And then codified in our statutory language that says Chinese Exclusion Act. That is exactly what it sounds like. It was literally a law against Chinese people only.
Right.
And so we've had not only our documents that are the foundational principles of the nation, and also statutory code, which was passed by Congress, signed by presidents. And then let's not get into the state and local county laws. So you don't get away from the permeation of the original DNA of the country, which was the founding concept of the nation that said that only white men who own property could participate in democracy, right?
Fair enough.
So it's rooted in racism and honestly sexism. And if we were in modern times, we would call it an oligarch because it was founded by those who had means and only those who had means.
But you're looking
participate.
But I think it's very important to note that when you use a term like sexism, right? Yes, in 2024 standards and language, it is sexist. But in 18th century, women had no rights whatsoever.
You don't think that's sexist?
Of course it is in 2024, but back then.
But you don't think it was sexist back then?
No, because it was perfectly normal back then. Everyone accepted this.
About this.
So hold on. Let me understand, because I don't want to be seen as saying something that I agree. First of all, I agree wholeheartedly with you. But in an intellectual conversation, you're looking at something in 2024 language and applying it to the 18th century. So to say it's rooted in women had no rights, women were just bearers of children, keepers of the home. Is that sexist? Back then, it was seen as normal. And it was seen as normal by multiple cultures around the world, not just in America.
Can I ask you a question?
Just like America wasn't the inventors of slavery. I'm not saying that we didn't have the worst situation for people of our people in this world, but it wasn't like we were the only ones. And I'm not saying to defend it. Please don't understand it.
Well, allow me to respond to that.
So that's all I'm trying to say. It's a nuanced conversation is what I'm saying.
All right, and we're going to provide nuance. Chattel slavery, which was the American version of slavery, was different than indentured servitude and some other permeations throughout other nations. But let's come back to the
It was different, yes.
Right, the notion that you just admitted about, it was normative for women not to have rights. Women could not sign contracts. Those rights extended beyond just, being in the household. It doesn't make it not sexist. And let me explain why I'm saying that. And let me explain why. I'll give you my position. You can respond to it. Just because other people had slaves, it doesn't make slavery not slavery.
Nobody said that.
No,
nobody said that.
I'm making what's called a proxy point. I'm making a proxy point.
Okay, I just don't want you to make it sound like I said that.
No, you're not saying that. You actually agree with me on the slavery point. And that's why I'm making the proxy point to show you that just as slavery is still slavery, even if it's normative or more normative, sexism is still sexism, even if it's more normative at that time. Do you understand that point?
Of course I do. We have slaves now. You have human trafficked slaves. You have sex slaves. You have slavery now in Northern Africa. Slavery is existing right now before our very eyes. So that normative or that proxy point you're making, I'm not really sure where it's coming from.
But you agree that sexism is still sexism, even if it's 100 years ago.
Yes, but I don't think you're using it as a term that the country was based on sexism, because it was based on what was normal for that point in time.
Slavery was normal or more normative. It doesn't mean it wasn't slavery.
I'm not, of course not. But what I'm saying is, and nobody's saying all of this was good. I'm just saying that to apply those concepts, 18th century concepts to 2024 and say they're still going on now, I think is erroneous.
Well, that's not the only comparative model.
Nikki Haley was stupid to say what she said.
Let me go back to that
stupid
point.
To say what they had to say.
So that was the point I actually disagreed with initially. So I don't think they're not answering because they are stupid. And the reason I say that is because I have plenty of footage of them answering that question in their political past, both her and DeSantis, with no issue. And then all of a sudden it becomes an issue. Did they forget the answer? No, they did not. I think there's such an enhanced focus on the most extreme versions of conservatism, meaning racist people inside of the party, that they are now politically measuring their words to not offend the racist who are in the party, because it is not knowledge. They do have the knowledge. She was governor of South Carolina. Right. It is not them being stupid, because they've answered it on record quite well before. It is them being political, dear brother. This is a political measure, not one of cognition.
So you think that they know better and they're trying to go after what you call the racist elements of the Republican Party? I would not argue with you on that. I wouldn't argue with you on that. I'm not. I wouldn't. That would be. I wouldn't argue with you on that. I think they're couching their words now because they're trying to drag a percentage of the Republican Party onto their side. So I would not argue with you on that. But before you say that the only side or the only white people in this country that have those racist viewpoints are on the Republican side.
I'm not saying that, brother.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I do want to remind you that there are thousands of people in the streets right now saying "death to the Jews." So there are this hatred on both sides. So I just want to make sure.
Listen, I would never make that kind of.
I know. Yeah, that's right. You're not Joanne Reed. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on, man! Don't make me have to come over there and reach over here and do something to you, man. Come on, man.
Come on, you can't.
All right. So let me go back to a point that I think actually you and I can agree on. When we have these extremes, Democrats get away with doing anything and saying, and what are you going to do about it? Vote for this person? Because the extreme position does this. They're not denying a concept. And I think sometimes when people like Haley and DeSantis and others, when they don't want to embrace history and they want to deny racism exists, you're not denying a concept, you're denying a community. And that community has real experience as victims of let's say this, victims from people who have real adverse, bigoted views about them. So here's the thing. If you have somebody in your family who's murdered, okay, or somebody has attempted to murder you or attempted to sexually assault you, you don't want anyone saying, you know what, that really doesn't exist. Now you're denying not a concept, you're denying an experience from a community of victims that have actually been victimized by this thing you say does not exist.
So there's my point. Now you've kind of moved the goalposts a little bit, my brother.
Okay.
Because we're starting with the premise that this country was, quote unquote, never a racist country, right? So we both agree that's a stupid statement for them to make. And then we agree.
Well, it's just untrue. And
it's untrue. Okay, stupid, reasons. Right. But it's done right. And we both agree with that. Now you're saying that the people in 2024 have experienced this to such a large degree that to deny that it was ever there in the first place is insulting to those people. And
no, that's not my exact wording. My exact wording is the fact that it does exist. You know, murder exists at less than 1% of the population in mass, which simply means that's even though it's the most egregious crime you will likely see in this country, it is actually the lowest habitual crime you will see as far as actual numbers, right? Right. It doesn't negate the reality that it exists, nor does that negate the reality that it adversely impacts a family.
Maybe it's me, but you lost me a little bit. So let me just go back.
Bring you back on the track.
No. Let me bring myself back.
So you can attempt to.
I always do. But let me bring your audience back to where you were because I'm not sure where you went.
You're confused.
No, I'm not confused. I'm just trying to figure out what it is you're trying to say.
I'm saying just because something doesn't happen as much as it used to happen. No, because that's the argument from the right. The argument from the right is not as bad as it used to be, right? That's Nikki Haley's argument,
but that's true.
So
we can accept that's true. Hold on, we can accept that's true, right?
Okay, right. Depending on your experience, yes, you can accept that's true.
What do you mean depending on your experience?
When Nikki Haley says, I don't negate her experience. I don't say Nikki Haley.
If 99% of the
no, hold on, Shelley. Allow me to respond, bro.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't say Nikki Haley's lying about her saying she experiences less racism today than she did when she was a child. That is her proclamation. I don't disagree with her. That's her experience.
When you say everyone's experiencing less racism today than they used to be, than their forefathers did?
No.
Oh, so I can't.
I definitely wouldn't say that.
Really?
So
How can you possibly?
Yeah, brother. Allow me to make
that
my point.
Defies logic.
Show, brother.
No, but that
I gave my answer on the
logic,
record, brother.
Go ahead.
All right, now, you support Trump. That defies logic. All right, let's go.
What you just said does. You're saying that black people today suffer from the same racism that our ancestors did? Is you saying that?
No. So let me go back. Brother, you gonna allow me to make my point?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you contextualize a particular framework of the conversation in a way to suggest that somehow I'm saying everything's the exact same as far as racial policy or racial impact. It's not. That doesn't mean that individuals or groups do not experience racism in very significant ways on a very regular basis based on their experience. That is my point. What I'm saying to you is the denial of racism existing in America is a denial of a community that experiences microaggression racism and macroaggression racism, policy-directed racism, or those things that permeate from the core, which means that generation to generation to generation, there's something that happened to that particular core that still continues to permeate.
Let me tell you something.
And hold on one second, dear brother. Hold on, let me finish the point. When Republicans do that, the unfortunate reality is that if they can deny racism ever existed, if they successfully do this, they now can deny that diversity, equity, and inclusion is necessary, or that minority scholarships can be funded. These things all come from that one core that racism did exist in America, even if you believe it doesn't exist today. And if you take away that particular sentiment, that is your cultural point, you then take away the policy directive to fix it. And that's the danger, I feel, in that particular type of rhetoric.
So let me answer it. Let me answer you. First of all, no one's denying that racism existed in this country.
Well,
before.
Nikki Haley did. And
no, she did. And I said that, and I disagree with that. I said it was stupid.
Right, but you said no one is saying that.
But no one on my side. Well, let me
Haley's on your side, brother.
Let me correct that. Let me correct that.
DeSantis is a Republican.
Right, I correct it. Let me correct that. I'm not saying that. And I disagree with them saying that. And I've admonished them on my show publicly for saying that every time they say it. As for Republicans who want to say it's gotten better, clearly racism.
Man, Democrats say that, brother. Barack Obama, President Obama said that.
Right. And
that's dime a dozen.
And he got crucified for saying it. When he said it,
I don't think he got crucified.
He did get crucified. Al Sharpton crucified him, and many of the civil rights activists crucified him for saying that.
Come on, man. Al Sharpton said something similar.
Hold on.
What are you talking about?
What Barack Obama said, we live in a post-racial society. He got crucified.
But we don't.
That's
a lie. That's worthy of criticism. The very fact that he knows today we don't live in a post-racial society.
He knows that we live in a highly political society, but he knows we live in a post-racial society because he was in that position.
Believe President Obama says, and Michelle Obama says, we live in a post-racial America. Why
Yes,
you lying
he said
to them
it.
like that,
He said it. He said it. He said it. He got crucified.
You think they're
for
saying we live in a post-racial society?
He said it. When he got elected, he said it.
Okay.
And he got crucified by the black left.
What was the last thing he said about race?
I don't know the last thing he said about it, but let me go back to what you're saying, because
definitely do not believe that we live in a post-racial society.
I do believe it, because you're on a majority-owned white outlet calling white people racist. So clearly we live in a post-racial society.
Is that a majority-owned white outlet? You obviously didn't do your research.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought the guy that owned it was a white guy. Or you gonna say he's a person of color? Because he's Turkish? That's ridiculous. That is absolutely positively ridiculous. Because that brother will get mugged in the hood just like any other white boy. No, I'm not doing it. Let me go back. What you're doing. Let me go back. Come on, man. Come on. He's not a person of color.
Works for 95.5. I don't see a black person on the board.
There's a bunch of black people, but let me tell you something. Let me say something. No, let's go back to what you said, for real.
Okay.
Because it's very instructive. I do think, however, that if you are in a position to where you think racism never existed or may not exist today, which clearly there are people who hate other people for various reasons, right? Then it's hard for you to come up with policies to address certain issues.
Right.
However, that being said, politicians on the right come up with policies to address issues that impact Black people all the time. Right here in Georgia, the state legislature is trying to come up with wording for a school choice bill that many Black mothers support, right? So you can't say that these people are racist when they're trying to address a poor schooling
I'm not saying
situation.
These people, brother. You got to realize
you're saying Republicans, because you said DeSantis and Nikki Haley said this, so you're talking about Republicans. Clearly you are, because that's how you laid out your case.
I'm going to ask that you allow me to reiterate what I said.
You don't have to. You said it already.
Said Haley, DeSantis. They are not all representative of all Republicans.
Well, you said who can.
The reality is this: the policies that you're referring to, these policies can be nuanced. You know who I had breakfast with this morning, man?
Who's you had breakfast with? Okay.
Yep, I had breakfast with Raffensperger, Secretary of State for Georgia. He's a Republican. Raffensperger.
No, I'm just kidding. See, I'm just kidding.
My point.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Point.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Let me tell you why.
He's a Republican. That was my joke. That was a joke. No. It's not revealing. It's not revealing.
Republicans just introduced legislation to have the Republican Secretary of State removed because he would not do the bidding of Donald Trump.
No, that's not. There's part of that. Part of that is that reason. The other reason is because he's failing to testify, meaning even Democrats want to hear him testify. That's part of it. I don't agree with that bill. I don't agree with that sentiment. He's a duly elected official. Yeah. I don't agree with removal of anybody through impeachment or any sort of who's been elected by the people. If you've been elected by the people, whether you're a DA in Fulton County or Secretary of State, you don't get another group
we may
of elected
agree
officials.
On the point almost. Yeah. So let me tell you the only nuance I have to that. Obviously presidential because of the impeachment process, as that's constitutional.
But the impeachment process has been used too much, and you know.
And we can debate that at another time. But on your point about the duly elected official, the only nuance I would add to that is recall, because at least recall is done there. That's done by the people.
I agree with that. Yes, sir. Okay. If you want to recall somebody, you're getting the signatures from the very same voters. That's obviously right. Yes, I agree with that.
All right, yeah. I'm with you, brother. We actually agreed on the last point. Look at that.
We agreed on the first point too. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis were stupid for saying what they said. I agree with that.
They were political. Remember, you changed the point.
Yeah, political, stupid. Let me be very clear. Political and stupid are one and the same.
I can agree with that. All right, brother. Always good to have you, man. Tell people how to check out your great work on 95.5 and beyond.
95.5 WSB, 7 to 10, and Monday through Friday. And find me on Facebook, Shelley Wynter, same name. Right. Thank you, my brother. Love you, brother.
I love you back, brother.
Like that love that fat tie knot you got there. That's nice.
Everybody ain't able.
A lot of people ain't doing it no more either. Love you,
man.
brother.
Listen, man. There's just some things about me. I'm just old school in some ways, man.
I know, so am I.
That's all that matters.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. God bless.
As always, God bless you, man.